All right, we are back for the World Dodgeball Federation Championships 2019 in Cancun. This is Terry Thrasher.
And I'm Bill Fisher.
And pretty soon we're going to see the teams taking the court. They're going to have a procession entering the arena here. And yeah, we'll get to actually see all the teams for the first time in a little while.
Yeah, today we have two matches for you. We've got Team Mexico versus Team Argentina on the women's front. And for the men's, we have Team Mexico versus Team Norway. Norway new this year.
Yeah, first time we're seeing them in the World's competition. Should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they bring. Aside from that, yeah, let's set the stage. What happened last year?
Well, what didn't happen last year? We were in Los Angeles. We saw a return from obviously a lot of the nations that had been here before. United States doing pretty well for themselves, Malaysia also doing pretty well for themselves, and then Canada and Australia kind of fighting over those bronzes afterward. But also saw good showings from teams from Hong Kong, Mexico. We saw the Argentinian men's team for the first time last year, and we'll see the Argentinian women's team for the first time this year. And tournament MVPs last year, I think, are going to be here again.
Yeah, Andrew Catchum was male MVP, and
I believe it was Ashley Cook last year, yeah.
Female MVP. Okay.
Yeah, we've had a bit of some military band playing early on to help set the atmosphere here.
Yeah, this gym is pretty different than last year's too. This is like an actual stadium here. The floors are pretty different. Oh, closer? Got it. Floors are pretty different. I think they're ping pong floors, is what I.
Oh, interesting.
Like, so we'll see how they play. Players are saying they can't do as much sliding, so expect to see like kind of a different take on the way these players approach than we saw last year, essentially.
Yeah, I was hearing from a couple of Canadians that the floor is pretty sticky, and obviously a lot of times on the opening rush in previous years we've seen players run, slide like pretty far over the line as they try to take that ball and pitch it back to a teammate or whatever they're actually doing with it, and I just don't think that's going to be possible this year, so we'll have to see how they adapt.
Yeah, we're also seeing that these floors will get a bit more slick when they do get wet. So as we see sweat come on, I think we'll see some teams kind of move away from that early kind of Malaysian throw, right, where they do the quick run back, turn in the air, and make that throw. I don't know if you're really going to have the grip to make that once these floors kind of start getting worn in. But we'll see how that changes the game. I mean, both sides are going to have to play with it. No real advantage to any one team. It's just a matter of who adapts and who can play the field.
Yeah, and I would imagine if it's really slippery, once there's like water or sweat or something like that on the floor, I would imagine they're going to stop play just to try and clean it up. We'll have to see how much of an impact it is.
One of my jobs coming into the stadium is to carry like 60 sponges.
La Federación Mundial de Dodgeball y la Federación Mexicana de Dodgeball
Player safety
les da la más cordial de las bienvenidas al Campeonato Mundial de Dodgeball Cancun 2019. The World Dodgeball Federation and the Mexican Dodgeball Federation warmly welcome you to the Dodgeball World Championship Cancun 2019. Recibimos a los equipos participantes de este campeonato mundial. Please welcome to the participating teams of this World Championship. Con el debido respeto, daremos paso a los honores correspondientes a cargo de la banda de guerra y escolta del 64º Batallón de Infantería. Le suplicamos al público asistente ponerse de pie. With all due respect, we begin the ceremony to honor the Mexican flag, commanded by the military man from the 64th Infantry and Escort Battalion. Please stand up. Ahora entonaremos el glorioso himno nacional mexicano. Now we sing the Mexican national anthem. Despidamos a nuestro lábaro patrio con los honores correspondientes. Please dismiss our flag with the honors it deserves. Agradecemos la participación de la escolta y banda de guerra del 64º Batallón de Infantería por esta ceremonia inaugural. We thank the escort and military band their important participation in our opening ceremony. Miembros de este distinguido presidium, with those visiting as member of our distinguished presidium, Armando Valdés Samaniego, presidente de la Federación de Dodgeball de México, President of the Mexican Dodgeball Federation. Luis Gabriel de la Riva, vicepresidente de la Federación de Dodgeball México, vicepresidente of the Mexican Dodgeball Federation. Y Andrea Villagrán, tesorera de la Federación de Dodgeball México y directora de este evento, Treasurer of the Mexican Dodgeball Federation and Director of the event. Pedimos a Andrea Villagrán, tesorera y directora del evento, nos brinde unas palabras de bienvenida. We ask to Andrea Villagrán provide us the welcome words to the Dodgeball World Championship Cancun 2019.
Bueno, está bien. Buenas noches a todos, muchas gracias por estar acá. Estamos realmente emocionados de contar con toda su participación y presencia. For those waiting for the English this time. Gracias a todos por estar aquí, muchas gracias a los atletas por su arduo trabajo, preparación. Sabemos que ustedes han dejado todo por estar aquí. Agradecemos a todas las delegaciones que se han hecho hoy presentes. Realmente nos causa mucha emoción tenerlos aquí a todos y esperamos saber qué es lo que nos van a mostrar en la cancha. Muchísimas gracias. Quiero agradecer al comité organizador del Mundial. Como ustedes saben, la Federación Mexicana todavía sigue siendo una organización bastante chica. Entonces, a todas las personas que han estado directa o indirectamente involucrados en el proceso de preparación, les agradecemos infinitamente todo su esfuerzo, todo su trabajo, toda su labor para lograr el exitoso desarrollo de este Campeonato Mundial 2019 en Cancún. Thank you everyone, thank you all the athletes, thank you all the international delegations for being here. We really appreciate it. We know how hard it is for everyone to make it. We appreciate the effort the athletes make and every delegate here tonight. We really thank you. As you know, the Mexican Federation is still a relatively small organization, so we want to take a minute to thank everyone who was directly or indirectly involved in helping the World Dodgeball Championship Cancun 2019 possible. Thank you and welcome.
De la misma manera, pedimos a Armando Valdés Samaniego, presidente de la Federación Mexicana de Dodgeball, nos haga el honor de dirigir unas palabras a los asistentes, así como hacer la declaratoria inaugural de nuestro evento mundial. We kindly ask to President Armando Valdés to the honor with some words for the audience and declare the event opening.
Thank you very much. we want all of you to experience some of that culture that fascinates us every day. And that's why we want to do the small lion ceremony, and also why we'll do a small show to demonstrate the pre-Hispanic origins of the Mexican culture. I hope you enjoy it. Muchas gracias a todos los países que vienen de Latinoamérica, sobre todo Argentina, que ahora además también tiene una selección femenil. Nos da mucho gusto verlos, sobre todo que traigan la sangre latina y le den una infusión de coraje y de campeón de interior. Pero sí, todos tienen posibilidades de ganar el trofeo de Blanco Barco. De hecho, es una de las cosas de las que estamos muy orgullosos en este campeonato, tener un trofeo representativo de la cultura local y promover la conservación de este gran animal. Estamos trabajando con el Grupo Pantera para poder ayudar en dicha conservación, y el trofeo fue diseñado por un gran artista reconocido a nivel internacional, Aldo Islas. Así que le deseamos la mejor de las suertes a todos los equipos de Argentina para que estudien.
Like mints, chopsticks, stuff like that. I need to get back on that wagon, get my call chops.
Well, with that being said, I'd like to officially inaugurate the Dodgeball Championships on this Tuesday, November 26th at 6:46 p.m. Entonces, habiendo dicho eso, me gustaría declarar oficialmente inaugurado el Campeonato Mundial de Dodgeball Cancun 2019 el martes 26 de noviembre a las 6:46 de la tarde. Muchas gracias a todos. Thank you very much.
Y para darle la bienvenida a todos los jugadores y público asistentes del Campeonato Mundial de Dodgeball, recibimos a Inauguration Entertainment, quienes presentarán un juego de pelota prehispánico, signo de grandeza de nuestras culturas ancestrales. And as a welcome to the players and the athletes of the Dodgeball World Championship, let's receive Inauguration Entertainment, who will represent a prehispanic ball game, a sign of greatness of our ancestral cultures. We invite all the players to take seat and enjoy this show. This is for you guys. Invitamos a todos los jugadores a que se acerquen a presenciar el show de bienvenida a los jugadores y público asistente de este campeonato mundial.
All right, we are back after those opening ceremonies. We're going to see Mexico versus Argentina on the women's side very shortly. And yeah, Bill, have you ever seen anything like that?
No, that was super interesting. I have never seen anything like that before. That was so exciting. I've never seen someone like so coordinated with like their hips.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously aren't going to be able to inform anybody listening too much on what to expect from a game like that, except obviously you can't use your hands or feet. And man, yeah, they were committing to hitting those things on the floor pretty hard.
That was impressive, and I would have hurt myself trying anything like that.
I don't know, that seems like a great idea for maybe a Team Mexico jersey in future years. Like, if they work with that kind of ensemble and motif to, I don't know, it would inspire terror, I think, in the other team. That was really interesting.
Okay. Well, dodgeball in our format is a lot different.
Yes.
Than what we just saw there, to be clear.
Yeah, you are allowed to use your hands.
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely not allowed to kick it. I don't know. I don't know when you would ever hit it with your hip like that either.
Yeah, hoping to hit it up and get a catch from a rebound. Okay. So let's explain the court while we have the view of it. I think it'll be interesting just to, you know, the lines are all there. For the women's court, the women go up to that first, not all the way to the back line. It's a 25-foot instead of the men's, which is 30-foot. So you'll see the women only going back to that first line. You're wondering why that section exists.
Yeah, exactly. We have the lines all in white on this court for this year. So center line, obviously, team's not allowed to go past that. The next lines on the outside from there are the clear line, where balls being pitched back from the opening rush need to clear that line before they can actually be used to attack the other team. Then the next most outward lines, as Bill mentioned, those are the back lines for the women's courts, and all the way at the back will be the back lines for the men's courts. The men's court, 30 feet per side, women's court, 25 feet per side. And as you can see, teams that aren't playing are kind of making their way out of the side areas. And we can see some officials kind of conferring rules. Not any major updates this year compared to previous years, but we will do our best to answer any questions that might come up rules-wise in the chat. You can see down on the court, just making sure that everything's cleaned up after the opening ceremonies. I would imagine there's a little bit of sweat on the ground after all the people going low in order to hit that ball. So, all right, and I think, yeah, I have no idea what to expect from the women's team of Team Argentina here. That'll be literally their first time at Worlds.
Yeah, no, this is exciting. Both Argentina on the women's side and Norway on the men's side are two fresh teams, and they're getting to start off by playing the home crowd. Like, they're getting the spotlight treatment right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is a great way. Obviously, Team Mexico being featured on the men's and women's side on the first day of the event seems only proper, and also getting to showcase two brand new teams. I think this is a great way to kick us off. And it looks like, still just making sure the court's okay down there.
Looks like everyone's getting themselves warmed up. I think the first game starts at 7:30, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That could be.
Or 7 p.m. Okay.
I think, yeah, we may be running a tiny bit late, but hey, that's okay. It's okay to see something cool like that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, let's go over the schedule for the week, just in terms of what people can expect to see. Tonight we have just two matches. We have Mexico and Argentina for the women's side starting off. After this we have Norway versus Mexico. Our round robin continues through Friday. Every day it goes from 9 a.m. to I think about 9 p.m. or so, from Wednesday through Friday, and that'll be all round robin. After that we have our bracket starting on Saturday. That'll start at 9 a.m. All that's in Eastern, by the way. And we finish up Sunday starting at 9 a.m. and ending at about 3 p.m. Eastern. For those on Pacific time, you're -3. So 6 a.m. you early birds, and Great Britain, Hong Kong, Malaysia, all them I couldn't tell you the time off the top of my head.
Yeah, we're going to have to do the math at some other point, but yeah, it's going to be a good tournament full of a lot of dodgeball. We've got, as you said, it's pretty much 12 hours of games every single day. And so, yeah.
More than that, I guess 13 hours, right? No. Yeah, no, okay, yeah, 12 hours. I forgot there's 12 hours and a half a day.
We're still learning how to read clocks here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will be here with all of the main court games. You can find the schedule at the World Dodgeball Federation Championship website, as well as the Federación Mexican Dodgeball. You will see the schedule available, women's games, men's games, all the games available. And just so you know as well, tomorrow morning we will be kicking off with, on the main court, the USA versus Great Britain on the women's side to start things off. So,
men's side.
Oh, that's the men's side. That's right. Great Britain actually isn't bringing a women's team, so that would have been weird. Yeah, they're also going to be new. Great Britain competing in the foam championships for the first time.
Yeah, they generally play with cloth balls. They're more like volleyballs, so this is the first time. So for those that don't follow the sport, the European Dodgeball Federation, I believe it was EDF, joined the WDBF earlier this year. Great Britain has come over and is participating in this event, and next year, 2020, is in, where is it again? Is it?
I believe it is London.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, next year is going to be both foam and cloth to get everyone all together. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be like 30 teams next year.
Yeah, that's probably going to be pretty wild. I hope we're there to see it. But yeah, I know Great Britain's supposed to be a powerhouse in the world of cloth dodgeball, and there was I believe it was called the Atlantic Cup earlier this year with representatives from a bunch of nations that are used to cloth and foam coming together and playing both styles. And from what I remember of the results, I mean, Great Britain didn't beat the Americans or the Canadians in foam as far as I remember, but they actually represented themselves quite well, and they definitely did beat them in cloth. So the potential is there, certainly, for them to be a strong team this year.
I mean, there's so much nuance to all of these balls. Like, 7-inch, for instance, has so much movement. I know in America we play a lot of rubber 8.5. We play 7-inch foam, various other balls, no sting. And so cloth is just a totally different beast. It has like no give to it, essentially. It's an open palm ball. And so just knowing that ball is so well, like, it takes a lot. Like, you can't just jump into these things. There's so much nuance, especially at this level of play. So I look forward to seeing how the Great Britain team has improved since that Atlantic Cup.
Yeah, I've tried one season of cloth dodgeball in a couple of tournaments, and yeah, even getting the hang of throwing that ball is kind of different for me. Like, just the grip on the ball is totally different. Even the motion that I used to throw it, once I kind of figured out my grip, was a little bit different. And yeah, I can't really curve the ball the way I'm used to. Blocking and catching, I'd say, were a little bit easier, but at the same time, the pace of the game's a little different because they're allowed to come a little closer, like 2/3 roughly of the way before they have to throw, and it's a lot more back and forth really quickly.
Like a 20-foot throw line, essentially.
I don't remember the exact measurements, but yeah, it's definitely a bit closer. So even though I'd say the balls, they can't move as much, they might be a little slower than 7-inch foam, they're definitely coming at you from closer.
Yeah.
Still a little bit of court cleanup going on, but yeah, we can see everybody. Well, you might not be able to see it at home, sadly, but right now the Australians lined up in front of the backdrop, getting themselves a team photo taken.
Yeah, and I think you can follow the event also through some places like Instagram. World Dodgeball Federation, I believe, is their Instagram handle. I should know this.
Yeah, and your local national organization has most likely posted the stream link if you're looking for that. You can see some of the Argentinian players starting to gather on the court. They've got the same white and light blue scheme that we saw from them last year. The women, you may not be able to see it, but the women are warming up on one of the far courts right now. Okay, so as we get into the event, I think in the last couple of years we've seen, generally speaking, on both the men's and the women's side, you've seen kind of the same top 4 countries be sort of reliably the ones that make it to the medal matches. We see the United States, Australia, Malaysia, and Canada pretty consistently in the top 4. But every year it feels like that gap between those countries and some of the others, it narrows a little bit more. So
last year was Malaysia's three-peat, right?
Yeah, it was. They've been probably the most consistently strong team over the last several tournaments. So obviously we're going to be super interested to see if they can keep up their prowess this year. I don't know if the different floors will be a challenge for them, or I don't know if their style of play has changed substantially. I only really got to watch a few matches from Malaysian leagues this year in preparation for this event, so we will see.
Who won 2015? Was that Canada?
That was in Las Vegas. I think that was actually the American men. And I'm not sure who won on the women's side. That's digging a little bit through my memory. We're going to have to look that up for later.
Maybe that was 2014, right?
Canada won in 2014, yeah. Over the men, yeah.
That's one that's always on YouTube. Like,
yeah.
Some million number of views, which is crazy.
Yeah, that has way more views than any other dodgeball event that I've found on YouTube. So, not sure why, but grateful for it. Fun fact, actually, when Toronto, Canada hosted Worlds in 2017, if you wanted to audition for the commentary, you had to do some commentary over that 2014 gold medal game. That was our audition game. So that was when I met Jake the first year. The two of us just doing commentary on the desk all tournament long in Toronto. I'm grateful that we've had a few more people in recent years. A little bit easier when there's a few of us to take care of it.
Oh my God, yeah. Something about speaking for 12 hours a day. Nothing really prepares you for it.
Yeah, it's a fun challenge.
Speaking of preparing, we see the Argentina women's team prepping. Have you seen Mexico at all?
I haven't. I think they're just. We can see a few of them down by the team photos. I think their women are just kind of getting loose right now. They aren't actually on a court to play yet, or to warm up a little more specifically.
This is going to be a big day. Just in terms of once again, two new teams showing off, what they've got compared to, Mexico being a foundation team, right? Like they've been in for how long?
Yeah, they've been active for a few years at least. They've performed fairly well at the last couple of events. I'd say they're, they haven't quite cracked that top 4 countries list, but I mean, I think they're on the level right below it.
Yeah, I remember talking to some of the Americans last year who were pretty scared to, not scared, so to speak. That's I think,
Healthy respect.
Yeah, healthy respect toward Team Mexico. Going into that Canada-Mexico match, it was actually, there wasn't a lot of one side or the other, who would come out of that and who they were prepping for. And I was asking them, they were like, no, we think Mexico has a good shot of coming out of that, and some were very Team Canada, but it wasn't 100% toward one team or the other. So I'm excited to see what they do here this year.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what we're hoping for, is just really close matches between a lot of the powerhouse teams and some of the up-and-coming teams, and just seeing how the sport develops. I mean, I think last year I'm going to go back 2 years to 2017. I think we saw a little bit of innovation from the Malaysian team in terms of those charging counters. We saw them attacking out of the corners really quickly, really aggressively compared to the way that the other teams were playing that year. And then I feel like last year in Los Angeles there was still some of that charging counters, but there was also more of the offensive team staying up at the line and staying offensive. Yeah, and trying to prevent those running counters from being as effective. And so we may see if the host teams have adopted either what you might call the classic styles, or maybe they have something a little different to show off at home with.
I'm always impressed with Team Canada's ability to put that pressure, to keep that space, just those pump fakes, and their ability, not ability, but their confidence in using an additional ball, right? They'll go down to 2 or 1 ball if they feel like they'll get a player, right, and really push that advantage. I'm always impressed with Team Canada with that.
Yeah, I mean, quite a few of the players who come out of Toronto, where I also play, I can say from playing against them, they're very used to applying pressure. And yeah, they really like to at least threaten the throw, and sometimes, of course, actually let that throw go. Just trying to make sure that you, as a player on the opposing team, don't really feel like you're safe in your space. So, and what do you think we'll see from the American side this year? Anything different?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of focus this year on like getting a solid center again, like really like improving that center game. The Giovincos were brought in. You might have seen them in the cloth finals of USA versus Canada. They were part of that team that made that comeback. Who else is new on the team this year? Putting myself on the spot like this. I don't know. I think we'll see a lot more of that like Malaysian style almost, like trying to stay alive in the middle, not letting their shots get hit. I think we're still going to see Ketchum throwing from the middle from like 40 feet, which I'm only now, like, after another year of playing, like, oh, that's like the safer shot. That ball carries. That ball doesn't lose its speed like some of the other ball types. So still big arm from him. I think a lot of the players surrounding him and, going to be a lot more agile. Yeah, we'll see how it goes though.
Yeah, certainly last year the American men used Ketchum as kind of I would say the main offensive weapon. Like, his throw is obviously very powerful. He won tournament MVP kind of on the back of staying alive pretty well, but mostly just being just a trebuchet out there in terms of knocking down the wall on the opposing team. So
really forcing focus on him. And then the same thing on like the women's side, right? Ashley Cook put so much pressure, and at the same time you throw at her, she was making incredible catches and deserved that MVP as well, in my opinion. Who else is on that side? I think the women's team is pretty consistent. Sister Briones is new to the team. Who else is new to the team? Again, putting myself on the spot like this, but new players on both sides. I know the Australian team, at least the men's squad, is again a fairly new team. I know last year they were about 3/4 new players, and again this year they have a lot of new players again. Brandon Leitner, you wanted me to call you out, so here's your time.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see how much consistency there is in the national programs from team to team. I know, again, the Canadians, you will see a very recognizable core on both the women's and the men's sides. And I certainly recognize some of the players, from the Mexican team. I've seen Huicachea and I think both of the Hoch brothers on the men's side. So certainly there's a bunch of returning players all over the place, but I've also seen a lot of new blood on the Australian, I think the women's team too, showing quite a few new players. So as we get into the action a bit more, I'm sure we'll be able to say a little bit more about the players that we remember and then offer something on the new ones.
Just so everyone knows, they're going to stop the stream for a moment and restart it as the beginning of the matches for the day. So if the stream cuts out, you know why. That's going to happen at any moment. Means the matches are coming up shortly. So looks like the courts are just about ready. The teams are just about set up. So yeah, if it cuts out, that WDBF YouTube page, we'll have a new live link up very shortly, just so everybody knows.
And in the meantime, we see the American women getting their picture taken. I think Paige Peterson is returning to the team. Is that right?
Yeah, and so at our American Nationals, she ended up getting hurt, and that was a scary moment. We didn't think that she was going to be here for this, but I'm glad to see her making her return.
I've had the pleasure of playing at tournaments against her a couple of times. Love that underhand throw that she's got. Really formidable.
It is something else. That throw has killed me way too many times.
You can see, we can see on the far court the Argentinian women as they're warming up. It's actually pretty structured compared to the way I've seen a lot of other teams warm up so far. Like, just in case you can't see it at home, the Argentinian women are lined up pretty evenly and just kind of throwing back and forth, pump faking, kind of in unison. And then on the other side, the Mexican women are just kind of stretching, staying loose, keeping it pretty breezy right now, I'd say.
Yeah, no, you don't really see a lot of like practice with like unison pump fakes. So I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about playing a really competitive dodgeball with the foam balls is that those pump fakes are actually a pretty key skill to bring to the match. I think knowing that in the WDBF style of dodgeball, the throw clock means that one team has to throw a ball within the 10-second shot clock, but not everybody on the team has to throw it. And so there are a lot of different situations where you might choose to throw one or more or all of your balls, but those pump fakes and being really convincing with them